From Chael Sonnen to Conor McGregor, here are some of the greatest trash talkers in UFC history. Let's begin with the guy who started it all. Now, Chael Sonnen's pretty famous for his creativity when it comes to insults and trash talk.
And when you talk to me and you talk down to me, don't talk down to me and don't talk to me like you're my equal, because you're not. I stomped you before and I will stomp you again.
He uses his words to demean and dismantle his opponents painfully slowly. The fighter's so deadly serious when he delivers his brutal remarks that it just completely knocks the other person off. The good thing about Chael is that though his insults were intelligent and quick-witted, he almost never swore or fumbled his words. Sonnen's known for ruffling the feathers of interviewers and everyone around him too. The iconic fighter is easily one of the most composed trash talkers in UFC history. Some even call him a wordsmith. So what was his best trash talk? Well, this one time Sonnen told Tito Ortiz that he always uses his mouth to get opportunities. He went on to say that the only person he knew who made their money using their mouth is Ortiz's ex-wife. Another time, Chael was bashing Anderson Silva and said that his ribs, hand and feet were all attached to a coward.
When all is said and done, I will promise you this, it's going to be one more in the win column, one more for the highlight reel, and one more for the bad guy.
Ouch, that must have stunk, just like Conor McGregor's comebacks.
From the biggest fight in sporting history. And I'm 29 today. 29 years of age.
It's no secret that Conor's one of the highest paid athletes of all time. His trash talk's the reason for most of his success. The UFC champ's so good at talking himself up that he once even talked himself into a fight with Floyd Mayweather. Can you believe that? The best part is, Conor had never even been in a professional boxing match before then. What makes his trash talking so great is the fact that he thinks he's simply telling the truth. His lines are delivered perfectly, and he's undeniably quick-witted and sharp. In fact, he's one of the most quotable trash talkers in UFC history. His insults and rude comments are nothing short of psychological warfare. Conor's pretty smart. He does his due diligence on his opponent so he can find out more about them and get in their heads. That's how he really gets to them. Not only is he super good at insulting his rivals, he can also make the crowd laugh. McGregor's actually one of the favorites of the crowd. It helps that he really knows how to sell a fight too.
Going forwards, he can fight going backwards. Look at that uppercut. Now, Marcus over the top, looking to finish it here.
Sometimes he'll even laugh at a joke he's made, which makes the joke that much more hilarious. McGregor's ability to wipe out his opponents is so good that it even led to the usually calm and composed Khabib Nurmagomedov to start a brawl after UFC 229. Now that was a heated exchange, but he's definitely trash talked more times than once. Remember the time when he looked over at Jeremy Stevens after the fighter was bragging about his KO ability in a pre-fight conference and went like, who the F is this guy? Not gonna lie, that was pretty funny. He also told Floyd Mayweather once to dress his own age and made fun of the fact that the aged MMA fighter carried a school bag on the stage. He ended his trash talk session by telling Mayweather, you can't even read. Wow, burn. Once, when he was asked about money, Conor told Nate Diaz to take a coffee break. Luckily, he clarified. And by coffee break, I mean, bring me my coffee. I don't know about you guys, but that was brutal. Not only that, but it also reminds me of another OG UFC trash talker, Colby Covington.
Dead. Rafael Dos Anjos, Damian Maia. I left him for dead. He came and picked up the scraps after me. He's a joke. He's nobody. He's following in my footsteps. If I make a sandwich tomorrow, he's going to try and make the sandwich the same way.
Colby's one of the most divisive fighters in the UFC, and boy, is he famous for his trash-talking skills. He was on the verge of being kicked out by the UFC after a boring draw, but he quickly turned heel and showed everyone why he belongs in the promotion. After Colby beat Damian Maia, he gave an interview where he screamed at the crowd, calling Brazil a dump and its people filthy animals. That was ultra mean because his audience at the time was mostly Brazilians. Ouch. Since that day, Covington's popularity spiked in the UFC, and he's now one of the most recognizable fighters. He claims that he actually wants people to hate him because that's his business model. Well, that's certainly interesting. He's definitely not like the other fighters. In the world of mixed martial arts, Colby's known for his no-holds-barred kind of trash talk. He usually crosses the line and even trash talks to the audience at a fight. One time, he went off on Jorge Masvidal, calling him a piece of fighter and a deadbeat. He also said that the only life-altering damage Jorge has ever done was was to his kids. Yikes, that's definitely going a little too far. Covington's most famous beef is with Kamaru Usman. One time, he said that he felt so bad for Mrs. Usman because she had a cheating son and a scammer for a husband. Well, there's no need to hit right where it hurts, Colby, but that's just classic Covington. He doesn't just trash talk the fighters who are getting into the ring with him. He insults pretty much every single fighter in the UFC. He's seen just how effective trash talking is when you want to make a name for yourself.
GHB, before all his fights, he fought Ronnie Yaha on GHB among all the other steroids he did in his career. You brought that addict with you, George? Did you bring that druggie? George.
He's pretty good at insults and hurtful remarks too, because he has a very devil-may-care and laid-back kind of attitude, just like Michael Bisping.
Chris, I didn't take your title. I took it from Luke Rockhold, the guy that took it off you when he beat the living daylights out of you. So get a grip, Chris. You're starting to sound pathetic.
Now this guy's one of a kind when it comes to trash talk. It comes pretty naturally to him, almost as if it's part of his personality. His MO is to trash talk his opponents before the fight so he can get to them and put them off their game. And it almost always worked. In the 12 years that Bisping fought in the promotion, he trash-talked more than anyone else in the history of the sport. The insults just rolled off his tongue. His feuds with GSP, Anderson Silva, Luke Rockhold, and Jorge Masvidal were all borderline hilarious. One of Bisping's best moments was when he interrupted Luke Rockhold while he was giving a motivational speech at a press conference. He said it sounded like the worst self-help book that he's ever read. Bisping didn't stop there. No, he went on to make fun of his speech and told him to shut up rather rudely. On the bright side, this got a laugh out of UFC's president Dana White. Even when he was off the cuff, Michael always said all the right things.
Over to talk to him afterwards to say well done. He didn't have a clue where he was, so you know, and I shook his hand, and he was kind of a bit of an asshole afterwards, to be honest.
It was no surprise that he ended up working at the commentary booth after he retired. He was a pretty good trash talker, if I'm being honest, kind of like Dominic Cruz, if you think about it.
Not that.
She shouldn't be
Slap the
hollering at
shit
me
out
on
of you for
social
that.
media.
Yeah.
Keep her to yourself. As far as I'm concerned, I did you a favor and her a favor. She obviously wears the pants in the relationship.
Cruz was an expert at making his opponents feel stupid. That's one of the main reasons why he's known as the most intelligent trash talker in the UFC. He plays mind games and wages mental warfare to play on his opponents' weaknesses and convince them that they're not all good enough to defeat him in the octagon.
And back again, 45 seconds in this bantamweight title fight.
He's pretty composed and analytical, but his biggest strength is that he never has to yell or intimidate his rivals to get his point across. He's such a good trash talker that he ends up coming on top each time there's a battle of the wits between him and someone else. He's pretty good at going after his rivals with no emotion, and he makes sure he sounds like the subconscious voice in the back of your head. That's a killer technique because he ends up luring his opponents into a battle of wits.
You're lucky
21 times.
those people.
You haven't fought one of the guys that I've lost to.
So
not
what?
one.
Who cares?
So,
I'm beating the top 5 guys to have the belt. The belt is why we fight.
He's pretty good at comebacks when he's challenged and has never once fumbled a reply. In fact, one of his finest lines was when he told Cody Garbrandt that he'd been able to buy a house with all of the wins he got over his team. That's insane, but I guess that's how it's always like in the UFC. There you have it. That's everything on the UFC's greatest trash talkers.